Right, welcome to another episode of Who Knew from the AnyGoodFilms team. I'm Simon,
I'm Van.
and we're going to forage through the fine and feckless in film. Now, in this particular episode, we're going to be looking at marketing and, in certain cases, some particularly bad merchandising. So, Van, you start off. What have you got?
I mean, it's been a fun year for marketing. I got to talk about the marketing campaigns of the last year because some of them have been incredible. I mean, you've got your Deadpools, you've got for better or worse your Wicked, which was a successful marketing campaign, if not one of the most bizarre ones. You got because let's be really honest, they trotted the two of them out there for like 2 months, and every single interview they played like a young gay couple being given a terminal diagnosis, like with all the hand holding and shit. Like
Yeah.
it was nuts, wasn't it? You can't argue with the results because Wicked is obviously like this big phenomenon. You can't argue with Deadpool's results, even though, and that just gives way to my next point about merchandising. It gave way to just the most sexualized popcorn bucket yet. And this was a year that had the Dune one, the Dune
I was going to say worse than
sandworm,
the Dune one.
yeah, the flashlight, popcorn bucket. Um, but I think, to be honest with you, my favorite marketing campaign this past year, and you could see it coming a mile off, was Craven the Hunter.
Okay.
Which, right, I don't know if you're aware of this. Last year, this past year in 2024, we only had one Marvel movie. Right, that is the first time that had happened for a decade, more than a decade. We have not had just one Marvel movie since the days of, I think, it wasn't even the very first Avengers. It was since the year of Iron Man 2, I think it was, which was like 2010, 2000, yeah, 2010. Since 2010, when we had Iron Man 2, or maybe 2011 when we had Thor, we have had more than one Marvel movie. This year we had, just the one. And as a result, Sony kind of swept in there and released not one, not two, but three entire Spider-Man spin-offs that don't feature Spider-Man. And they always use this excuse as well that they weren't legally allowed to because that was the agreement. Well, turned out bullshit. They absolutely could. They 1000%. They made the choice not to have a Spider-Man in them, and the result started bad and got worse. And you and I went to screenings for nearly all of these.
Yeah.
We we went to Morbius, we went to Madam. Actually, no, Madam Web didn't have a press show. I went and saw Madam Web publicly. Venom, I know we saw Venom: The Last Dance together
Yeah.
recently, and then it got to Craven the Hunter, which was the last one of these, and it had been delayed, I think, 3 or 4 times in the release schedule. Then didn't get a press show. And then I think it was 4 days before it was released, the head of Sony came out and said, "Yeah, we're shutting this down. No more of this. Like, we're not doing any more of these. We're scrapping the rest. You can have your Spider-Verse and sod off otherwise." And then had the unmitigated nerve to go to the press in an interview and say the unsayable, which was, "I don't know why these films have been doing that bad. We've released worse." Which is my, who does that? I mean, don't get me wrong. You and I know, in fact, let's be honest, let's do the inside baseball thing. Sony are one of the very few distributors that you can genuinely respect for showing you some absolute tripe with absolute confidence. They're very good about it. There's a
Yeah.
lot of studios that was like, no, we won't show you that because we know
No,
it
they're
sucks.
great, Sony. They're great.
Yeah, Sony though are like, look, we know this is going to be terrible. You know this is going to be terrible, but we got to show you. So you know what? Come in, we'll put the good coffee on, use our nice screening room, enjoy. Craven the Hunter. I haven't even seen it yet. It must really stink. I mean, I've got friends who've seen it and have told me little things about it. Apparently, it is an absolute clunker. But how bad does a film have to be to not only get Sony to pull a press show, not only get Sony to kill its entire brand, but to then go to the press and say, "We've released worse"? I ask you.
Well, I mean, I'm inclined to agree with you, to be honest. I mean, I like Sony. They're great guys, and they're
That's great
decent people
company,
there.
yeah.
But anyway, so right, so what I was going to have a look at a particular bit of merchandise. Now, the bit that I was going to look at was Twilight, the Twilight
Oh, I like
trilogy.
merchandise.
Yeah, yeah.
What
So,
glitter? Is it body glitter? Or...
well, you're going to love this, or
Oh,
not, as
go
the
on.
case may be. So the Twilight
What's next
trilogy,
toy
or
in it?
quadrilogy as it became, because obviously they split the last two into two.
Was it 4 or 5? It's 5 films in the end, right?
Well, I thought there were four. Maybe there's five.
There's four books. There's four books. I think five films. The
Right.
the fourth
Okay.
book, I think, yeah, The Hunger Games, Harry Potter did.
So you've got Bella and you've got Edward the Vampire, Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson, and a bunch of werewolves, basically. So marketing kind of taken the idea of, the film deals with protection and, teens needed to be protected. So you would think that maybe marketing might think, oh, well, garlic, maybe, or maybe a silver bullet, something like that, maybe.
I thought you were going to tell me
Um,
they put out a Twilight branded rape whistle or something, but
Well,
go
we're
on.
going in the right area.
Oh
So
no.
they've taken protection a little bit too literally, and they've issued the Twilight condom.
Oh, which is interesting because most Twilight fans I've ever met usually are virgins, so they're the last people in the universe
Well,
that
yeah,
would have a need for prophylactic.
unfortunately, most of them are in their 30s as well, but that's another story.
No,
Um,
no, no, no. That's disingenuous. I think you're lowballing when you say most Twilight fans.
of course I am.
Most Twilight
I'm
most
like
Twilight fans
with
are
the
a lot
gays.
older. Most Twilight fans are about your age, my
So
friend.
I wish I was still in my 30s. That's another story. Anyway, but anyway, these Twilight condoms, they are obviously they got pulled pretty quickly, if that's the right phrase. And they are highly collectible. You can't find them on eBay, very difficult to get hold of. In fact, as far as I'm aware, the only place that you can get them is the bedside table of Prince Andrew. But that's another story. Anyway,
Yeah, because he too is, a centuries old goblin who likes younger creatures, obviously.
yeah, of course. Anyway,
Yeah.
so go on. What's the next one that you've got?
You've just reminded me incidentally that when the movie That Awkward Moment came out in about 2012, I think it was the Zac Efron, Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan comedy. They gave, I don't know if you got these, whatever outlet you were working for, and so they gave us promotional condoms for that, and they came in little plastic pods that you broke open. So you kept the plastic pod in, and it had That Awkward Moment branded on it. So and we
Nice.
had and we had loads of spares. So no joke, every hookup I had for about 2 years was with the benefit of a Zac Efron branded rubber. No joke.
Man, that's just too much information. Too much information. Anyway, go on. You
Um,
were saying.
let's see. So, ooh, I think to be honest with you, I don't, I want to talk about Andrew Garfield.
Okay.
Okay, because he's sort of come up this past week because he's been in We Live in Time, right? That opened on New Year's Day. He's opposite Florence Pugh. The film, I don't know if you've seen the film, but the film, in my opinion, suffers from Twister syndrome, where you have a duo who have a complete imbalance of charisma, where one is infinitely more charismatic. In Twisters, it was Glenn
Yeah.
Powell was the charismatic one. Daisy Edgar Jones was just there. And then you have We Live in Time, where it's gender flip. You have Florence Pugh, who's amazing in it. And
Yeah.
you have Andrew Garfield, who is just like a blancmange of nothingness.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I find this with Andrew Garfield. I've always thought of him as this blancmange of nothingness. Even going because he always plays the same kind of character. Even going back to things like Hacksaw Ridge, which is like one of my mum's favorite films. Right, is Hacksaw Ridge. She must watch it once a month minimum.
Right.
It's always on bloody Saturday. And I've had people this past week, and it's always women, it's worth noticing, telling me off or trying to correct me for my smack talking of Andrew Garfield. Actually, he's a very good young actor. Oh, he's very charismatic. Oh, he's very handsome. He's got real problems. I'm like, what film are these people watching that Andrew Garfield's been? What Andrew Garfield have I not seen? And I say that as one of about five people on the planet who saw Under the Silver Lake. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I agree. I really like We Live in Time. I think Florence Pugh, she's just magnetic. She's absolutely great, absolutely
She
radiant.
trounced him. She
Yeah.
trounced him, right?
Absolutely
Easily.
radiant in that film, and I really like that film. But so the film that I was going to talk about next from my final film was going to be the merchandising for Memoirs of a Geisha. Geisha, I probably said that wrong. So this was
It was gay. Didn't Spielberg produce the film? Did Spielberg produce
yeah,
the film, if I
yeah, and
remember correctly?
it
Yeah.
was helmed, it was directed by Rob Marshall, who had just come off the back of the success of Chicago.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this was like a real prestige production. set in the
Mm.
1920s. It's based on a very highly regarded book set in the 1920s about a 9-year-old girl sold to a geisha house and basically into a life of servitude until the sort of the hierarchy of the house decide that she can, let's say, service the male clientele. So, um, and there are, obviously there are moments where she is examined physically and that aspect of her sexuality is sold to the highest bidder. It's all rather kind of quite unbelievable, to be perfectly honest. But anyway, because it was a prestige production, from a marketing
It was
point,
DreamWorks. Was it DreamWorks stuff,
yes, I
wasn't it?
think
It
so.
was a big,
Yeah,
it's quite a big
DreamWorks or
deal,
Universal,
DreamWorks.
one of the two.
Mm.
But because it was a prestige production, a highly regarded novel, a great director,
Mm.
from a marketing point of view, a lot of the fashion houses became were very interested in sort of doing some marketing for it. So, quite why they'd be interested in it, obviously seeing underage geisha girls who've been sold into slavery wearing kimonos, that was the thing that they latched onto. So,
I'm not sure if I'm not sure specifically, but I think the book was one of the Oprah book club
yeah,
picks, and I think that's why it had this. It was very embraced by the media and corporate America, strangely. Then wasn't it? Like you say, it's a very random film to latch onto.
yeah. So the fashion houses, obviously, we could it was the cultural appropriation, depending on what your views are of that, of kind of thinking, yeah, there's nothing better than a 9-year-old girl in a kimono that we can take from that and make a load of dresses. They also did a load of purses with screenshots on them. There was cosmetics as well as bath oils. So
Oh, weird.
yeah, bearing in mind the subject matter, it was a bizarre things to do. But anyway, um, the, the, I mean, really, who when you look at all that marketing and what they've made, who wouldn't want to really, have, after seeing the film, want to slip off their kimono, slip into a sake infused oils, much in the way that sold into slavery 9-year-old geisha girls never could. Uh,
I mean, it's not the weirdest bit of merch I've ever seen. I mean, I'm old enough to have lived through the idea of a Rambo cartoon for children, which is nuts.
and
But
let's forget the Freddy Krueger hand for kids.
oh, I had one of those. Yeah, I had one. It was
Why does
great.
that not surprise me?
I have a younger sister. So when she was very young and I had the glove, when she and my cousins were in bed at night and I was like going up to our room kind of thing, I would put the glove on. I would just throw my arm around the bedroom door and just scrape on the back of the door. And honestly, they jumped like you wouldn't believe.
So social services must have had a field day, I would imagine.
Social services wouldn't come near me. I'd be locked up. I have got one for you though. I
Go
have
on
got
then, go on. You
one
do a
for you.
final
So
one.
I'll give you my final one, and I think because we are about to walk headfirst into this one this next week at the time of recording, and supposedly we are on the cusp of the return of the erotic thriller, the erotic drama.
I know what film
Sex
it is.
is
Getting that.
back, baby, and of course, Baby Girl is next week, which opened I think 2 weeks ago in the US over Christmas. And the log line, according to people who've seen it, is, "Oh, it's a great movie in which Nicole Kidman discovers how to be a sub." I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll see that movie definitely. Um, it has been an interesting movie, as it has been an interesting year for movies and the representation of sex, and specifically how younger audiences are responding to them. Because it's notable that the sex in movies is skewing younger to a generation that seemingly don't have much interest in it. And just anecdotally, I mean, you have Gen Z, boys and girls in your life. You have a daughter in her 20s, early 20s, I believe. It is interesting how sort of sexually neutered the younger generation are. So this time last year, when we were still riding the wave of Saltburn, it was really interesting hearing that generation tell you how it was the thickest thing they'd ever seen. Whereas you and I were just sat there looking at it going, really? Like, seriously? Like Challengers is thought of as quite a sexy, smutty film. But you and I wouldn't even rank Challenges in the top 200
No.
sexy movies we've ever seen. You know, we've lived through the careers of Solomon King and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Adrian Lyne and people like that. And it is amazing that these movies are happening. So I'm fascinated to see how Baby Girl goes down because it's Nicole Kidman and her younger male co-stars Harris Dixon or Harris Dickinson, is it?
Uh, uh, uh,
Um,
I'm never sure
Kingsman prequel.
myself, to be honest.
I think it's
Harris.
Dickens, isn't it? From King Harris Dickens, yeah, from the Kingsman, the King's Man, wasn't it? The prequel. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond to that. And I know that right, there's been a thing in the air for a couple of years that quote one of the streamers, and it's never been identified which, although I think we can all hazard a guess on this one,
Yeah.
really wants to be the brand that revives the erotic thriller. Like one of them really wants to. There are a couple of filmmakers have said this, and they will not name the streamer. Now, I have a theory that it's Netflix because it would explain a lot.
Well,
But could
no
be
one
wrong.
wants to see a remake in 9.5 weeks or the ilk that followed after it.
You couldn't remake 9.5 Weeks because who the heck this is because you'd have the American Psycho problem, which is who from the younger talent pool could you really get that was gonna okay, Glenn Powell, admittedly Glenn Powell. But beside the point, like there is no Mickey Rourke. We don't have a Mickey Rourke now. We arguably have a Kim Basinger, we have Sydney Sweeney, but we don't have a Mickey Rourke in the same way that we don't have a Michael Douglas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We definitely don't have a James Spader. We don't have the right actors now for these things, which is why noticeably, whenever these do happen, they always have to be like students. Like the characters always have to be students because it's the only way you can really sell it because you can't obey the old archetypes. There simply isn't a comparative thing. So I am more than anything on the edge of my seat, fascinated just to see how all this with Baby Girl shakes out. I don't think it's going to make very much money, and I think nobody under 30 is going to see it.
Well, you've got me sold on the idea of a 9.5 remake with Sydney Sweeney. I'm in for
Who,
that.
who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't? Anyway, right. So that was our look then at marketing and merchandise. We probably, I almost inevitably return to this subject. But until then, thank you for watching us. I'm Simon,
I've
and please do remember to like, share, and subscribe to Any Good Films. We'll see you in our next episode. Thank you.